Hey, it's Misty, and it's time for my July rewind. So this is a look back at what I read in July with a quick thumbs up, thumbs down rating. Most of what I read in July was Jane Austen based because I'm preparing for Austen in August. Though I did take a couple little detours through the month just because I was craving something different. First up is Legends of Zita the Spacegirl by Ben Hotkey. This I actually read in June. It was right at the end of June and my rewind was already recorded, so I just figured I would save it for this month's video. As expected, huge thumbs up. I love this series. I love Hotkey's storytelling and the way that he's able to make you connect to a character within just a panel or two. Really great continuation of the Zita stories, and I really hope there's more because I love them. For Darkness Shows the Stars by Diana Peterfriend. This one gets a thumbs up. This is a retelling of Persuasion. It's sort of futuristic, dystopian, really different. This one was probably my most anticipated book for the event and one of my most anticipated books for the year. So I obviously had high hopes, and that can be really risky because sometimes you get yourself so amped up for something that it's just bound to be a letdown. But this one was a thumbs up, fortunately. I really liked it. There were some things that knocked it back just a touch for me, but they were mostly just because of how much I love Persuasion and how very hard I'm going to judge anything that uses Persuasion. So it was inevitable. I thought it was a really clever take, interesting how she worked things in and how she worked the different characters in. It works as a retelling and just on its own, even if you haven't read Persuasion or didn't even know that it was a Jane Austen retelling. So really good. I took another little detour and read Soul Thief by Jana Oliver. I loved The Demon Trapper's Daughter. Maybe missing a tiny bit of the spark that The Demon Trapper's Daughter had, but that's pretty typical, I think, for a second book just because it's not fresh to you anymore. But I thought it was a really good continuation of the series and sort of furthered the world and the things going on in Riley's life, and I really liked it and really need to get my hands on the third book now. Persuade Me by Juliet Archer. This is another Persuasion retelling, and this one is modern. Contemporary retellings a lot of times can be, it's not that they fall flat, but they can be very, very fluffy and just cutesy, I guess. And I'm not a very cutesy person, but fortunately this was really, really good and really faithful, very, very faithful to the original story. She got all of the major points, and I think she also really understood the characters and how to capture that tone and the same sort of plot points and events and character personality traits in a modern setting. So I really have to hand it to Juliet. I thought she did a fabulous job of reinterpreting the story and still keeping it the same. We all love Wentworth, right? So yes, very good. Big thumbs up. Darcy Fitzwilliam, A Tale of a Gentleman and an Officer by Karen V. Waslowski. This one gets a sort of in the middle thumb, but angling down a little bit. I had high hopes for this one. It's supposed to explore the relationship between Darcy and his cousin Colonel Fitzwilliam, which is one that I haven't really seen explored too much before, and I was excited for that. But for the most part for me, it didn't give me a relationship between the two of them that I believed, or relationships that I believed across the board, just with anyone. There were parts that I did like, and parts that I thought it kind of was actually achieving what it set out to achieve. But a lot of times for me it just kind of struggled in the tone between serious and sort of weirdly silly, and they just didn't match up together. The biggest problem for me though was that I felt that Karen got the characters wrong. Just the core of who they were, I felt wasn't reflected in this. So when I started it, I was really put off by that and was just going to give up. But I decided to put it down and spend some time away from it and see if maybe if I came back and approached it not so much as an Austen retelling and just as a piece of historical fiction, if it would work better for me. But it turns out I can't do that. I just couldn't separate it. I mean, when you're using the names Darcy and Elizabeth, I can't not know who they're supposed to be. So that really just threw the whole thing off for me, and it was hard for me to get past that. There were a lot of things too that were just anachronistic that bothered me, and who Colonel Fitzwilliam becomes in her hands just was not what I was hoping for, or even what I really liked. So there were some huge, huge drawbacks. There were things that did make me glad I finished it, and there were things that I think worked, but for the most part I was sadly disappointed in this. So that was a bummer. While I was taking a break from that and decided to read other things to kind of shake myself out of it, I decided to pick up A Matter of Magic by Patricia C. Reed. Now, this one didn't make me feel too bad about, branching off and getting out of the Jane Austen stuff, because this is set in Regency England, so, I mean, it's like I was still reading Austen. Not at all, because it's about a thief and magic. It's still in the wheelhouse. This is a bind-up of 2 books. I only read the first book in it, which is Mairelon the Magician. I don't know entirely how you say his name. But anyway, I really did like it, so it does get a thumbs up, with a little caveat. I think that it's probably aimed at a younger audience, and so maybe they wouldn't be bothered by this, but there's this thing that's a pet peeve of mine. I call it Scooby-Dooing. It's when everyone spills their guts to help you get to the end of the story. You corner the villain and they tell you all about their diabolical plan, and I would have gotten away if it wasn't for you meddling kids. That thing, I hate that thing. This has the biggest instance of Scooby-Dooing I've ever seen. There is seriously a scene at the end of this where I think every character in the book is in one room, all spilling their guts. Just no. That kind of knocked it back for me, and it was disappointing because the whole rest of the story, I was into it and I really liked it, and I liked Kim, the main character, and I liked the world, and the only thing that had bothered me to that point was the overuse of some of the slang. But that bothered me. Not enough that I don't still give this a full thumbs up, and not enough that I don't intend to read the rest of the book, because the fact is Patricia C. Reed writes amazing characters, and I really love her world building and her interactions with her characters and their world. I was just disappointed by that because I wasn't expecting it, and it just felt so rookie, After that little detour, I came back to the Jane Austen for some sexy times. Pride and Prejudice, Hidden Lusts by Mitzi Serrato. This one gets a thumbs up, however, it comes with a warning. This is straight up porn, okay? I'm just gonna put that out there. It's very, very funny. I think that it's something that you either have to read in small doses or read all at once and just be done with it, because it can be a bit too much. It can just be like, oh, so now so-and-so is gonna sleep with so-and-so. But that being said, it was just so silly and just playful with the whole thing. Some people do Jane Austen sort of smut it up and make it very serious, and it's very, ooh, we get to see, Darcy without his clothes on. And they try to make it very wet dreamy, and Mitzi doesn't take that tack, which is nice. She just goes for out and out silliness, like a Benny Hill sketch, but porn. The Monty Python of porn. And so it was just fun and silly and just ridiculous. Definitely not everyone's cup of tea. Bingley's got a very ungentlemanlike passion for Darcy. It just cracked me up. It's definitely not for purists, but if you're looking for something silly or fun, or we've tried everything else Jane Austen out there and you want to know, it's really funny. And smutty. Next up, Pride and Popularity by Jenny James. This one gets a thumbs up, not like a full huge woohoo thumbs up, but more of one than I thought I was going to give it. It feels very much like a debut. There are some things that, writing-wise, that kind of bother me. The whole show don't tell thing, and some unnatural dialogue and stuff like that. And I also think that Jenny didn't quite get the characters right in some respects. Darcy, for me, is not really all that recognizable. For the most part, it was really fun, very, very wholesome. So if you're, looking for something on the not smutty, hidden lust side, this is very, very wholesome. Definitely for the younger teen crowd, I would say. It had a charm to it that worked for me, and it was just fun, just cute. And lastly, Jane Austen Made Me Do It, which is a short story collection edited by Laurel Ann Nattrass. I'm currently reading this. I've just been kind of reading stories here and there, but all of the ones I've read so far, thumbs up. I've read some really good short story retellings of, or adaptations and continuations of Jane Austen in other works. Some have been really good and some have been epic fails. This one so far, they're all very different from many of the other ones that I've ever read. There's a playfulness to a lot of them, and there's an understanding and sort of the desire to not just tackle the stories, but tackle perceptions of Jane and Janeites and adaptations themselves, and sort of metafiction-y, and just really good, strong retellings from some authors that I haven't read, aren't necessarily known for Jane Austen fanfiction. And so it just so far really, really works. So that is what I read in July. Pretty good month. Couple of misses there and couple of so-sos, but I did get a lot of reading done, and most of what I read I did enjoy, so yay for that. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my thoughts on the books. And if you do your own TBR or rewind, make sure you link it up at the link on bookrat.com. I will leave a link to that below. That's all for me for this video, and I will see you soon. Happy reading! Blah 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 did blah blah blah. Austen in August.